Do you have a headache, a bad mood, and feel like you might be homosexual? Get a lobotomy, and you will forget all your problems and find peace. Recently, similar videos have been gaining popularity on TikTok. But what is a lobotomy really? A panacea or pure evil from the world of psychiatry? A frontal lobotomy or leucotomy? Is a surgical procedure developed by Portuguese neurosurgeon Egas Moniz in 1935. During the procedure, a hole was drilled into the skull and a loop was inserted through a guide. Rotational movements were then used to sever the white matter that connected the frontal lobes of the brain with other regions. As a result, one of the brain's lobes was either disconnected from the rest or completely removed. After performing the first 100 operations, Moniz observed his patients and made a subjective conclusion about the success of his method. He described his treatment approach as follows. It was assumed that after such an operation, patients would develop frontal lobe syndrome, which leads to a decrease in responsibility, self-control, creativity, memory, learning ability, concentration, and intelligence. Emotional flattening, apathy, and sluggishness were also inevitable. Egas Moniz proposed this method for hopeless patients who posed a social threat, believing that the procedure would allow them to be released from psychiatric institutions. However, in practice, lobotomy quickly began to be used for depression, neuroses, and even as a treatment for difficult children. By the mid-20th century, lobotomy had become an incredibly popular procedure. It was widely practiced in the UK, Japan, the US, and many European countries. However, while Moniz's followers praised the procedure, other specialists published studies showing that the actual results of lobotomy led to severe personality degradation. Despite the controversy, the Nobel Committee considered lobotomy to be a groundbreaking discovery. In 1949, Egas Moniz was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine for discovering the therapeutic effects of leucotomy in certain mental disorders. Later, the families of many lobotomy patients tried to have the award revoked, arguing that the procedure caused irreparable harm and was a barbaric practice. However, their request was denied. The true enthusiast and popularizer of lobotomy was American psychiatrist Walter Jackson Freeman, who developed a new technique, transorbital lobotomy. Now, drilling into the skull was no longer required. A sharp surgical instrument was inserted through the eye socket just above the eyeball, and a hammer was used to break through the thin bone layer, penetrating the brain. Freeman turned this operation into a real show, offering it for just $25. Newspapers wrote about his surgical theater, and he traveled across 23 states in his van, performing live demonstrations. Among his patients were even minors, including a 4-year-old child. One of the most infamous incidents occurred when Freeman accidentally killed a patient during a photo shoot, as he hammered the ice pick too deep into the brain. A particularly shocking case is that of Howard Dully. He underwent lobotomy at the age of 13 at the insistence of his stepmother, who struggled to control his energetic behavior. Dully had no actual mental disorders. He later lived to old age and described his traumatic experience in the book, My Lobotomy. Over time, Freeman's medical colleagues turned against him, but he continued performing operations until 1967, when his last patient died from a brain hemorrhage. This was not the first fatality, but it became the final straw. Freeman was finally stripped of his medical license. By the 1970s, lobotomy was officially banned in the US, though some countries continued using it until the 1980s. The last country to prohibit lobotomy was France. Today, lobotomy is considered one of the most shameful Nobel Prize awards in history. Tens of thousands of victims of this brutal practice serve as undeniable proof. Very soon, I will be releasing a new video about an iceberg of illegal and disturbing video games, which will be even bigger than this one. To speed up its release, support this video by subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment. This was Spookify. See you in the next videos.